Ooh, so much for the program today. CNBC just released its list of the wealthiest members of Congress. And there are some great names on that list. By the way, Chevy only sold 125 Chevy Volts to consumers last month. Headline from Reuters. Automakers warn of fragile demand. Here comes your next federal intervention into the auto market. But I want to start with a quote from Mao. Now I'm going to be honest with you before I read this quote. I didn't research it. I literally just put my finger into the little red book as the intro to this program was playing. I literally just stuck my finger into the book and opened a page, and this was the quote that popped up. Hear that? That's the Mao's little red book. The masses have a potentially inexhaustible enthusiasm for socialism. Those who can only follow the old routine in a revolutionary period are utterly incapable of seeing this enthusiasm. They are blind and all is dark ahead of them. At times they go so far as to confound right and wrong and turn things upside down. Haven't we come across enough persons of this type? Those who simply follow the old routine invariably underestimate the people's enthusiasm. Let something new appear and they always disapprove and rush to the opposite. Afterwards they have to admit defeat and do a little self-criticism. But the next time something new appears, they go through the same process over again. This is their pattern of behavior in regard to anything and everything. Such people are always passive, always fail to move forward at the critical moment, and always have to be given a shove in the back before they move a step. You're being shoved right now. I'm not even kidding. I came down here, I was pulling my books together. I have Common Sense, the Federalist Papers, the Law by Bastiat, the Constitution, Communism, all the stuff that I normally carry. And just as I was sitting down, my finger slipped into the pages, and I just pulled open to see where I landed my finger, and that was the quote. The people need to be shoved into socialism. They have an enthusiasm for it. They just reject the new thing. So we have to push them. We have to show them that socialism is what they've wanted all this time. We know what you want. But because it's new and people are well, what is he saying? People are creatures of habit. And if they were miserable or poor or happy and rich or somewhere in the middle, the devil you know is sometimes better than the devil that you don't know. But we know the best devil is socialism. So because we know what's best, we have to shove you, the people, into socialism. Well, socialism is for the people, not the socialists. Now, I'm going to open your eyes to something here. Here's the list of the wealthiest members of Congress, Republicans removed, since it's not Republicans, who are constantly complaining that taxes are too low. It's not Republicans who are constantly complaining that other people are too rich. It's not Republicans who... Now, this is the funny thing. Democrats, progressives, and liberals, college campus radicals, it's not even taxes. They link taxes to resources. They link taxes to the concept of the static pie, even though the concept of taxation and the static pie have nothing to do with one another. Taxes in the United States at the federal level are linked mostly to income. One can have a high income this year, a low income next year. One could have had a low income for a decade and then had a high income in the 11th year. Having resources doesn't always mean having an income. And having an income doesn't always mean having resources. If you're running a business, if you're beginning to run a business, your income is reinvested into the business. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a doctor, if you're a landscaper, if you're a restaurant owner, the money you make is part of the business until the business begins to run on its own. And in a down economy, If you want to keep that business, if you don't plan on closing it up, taking what you've extracted from it and walking away, you may find yourself subsidizing yourself and even your employees just to keep the doors open. When you look at this list of people, who do you think the richest is? Who do you think the richest member of Congress is? I'll take a sip of my coffee while you think about that. You probably won't be surprised. Number one, John Kerry. Number one is John Kerry, who debated Marco Rubio just the other day about how much the government should actually take out of the private sector. Well, John Kerry only technically earns his senatorial salary. The rest of his wealth is his wife's, and she didn't earn one penny of it. He inherited, essentially, the Heinz family fortune by being the second husband of Teresa Heinz Kerry. The enormous amount of wealth enjoyed by the Kerrys was earned by neither of them. They're not entrepreneurs. They're not business owners. They didn't cure cancer or AIDS, for that matter. He married into money that she married into. That's it. Ready? And this is the best part about this CNBC ranking. They're ranking the lowest possible figure. At its lowest, John Kerry's net worth is $188.37 million. $188.37 million. Now, if you're looking at resources, because this is a ruse created by the progressive movement that it's income, that it's salary, that it's profits and capital gains. But if you're just sitting on $188.37 million that you're not earning, in other words, John Kerry's money isn't creating jobs. It isn't being reinvested into the infrastructure of business. He isn't researching and developing new products with his wealth, able to take more risks because he can afford to take losses. This is money sitting in the bank earning him interest, or her interest, or them interest. If the argument is to be made that if somebody has exponentially too much, then somebody else must have exponentially too little, then what do you say of John Kerry? He is holding on to $188.37 million while other people hold on to nothing. Next down the list is Representative Jane Harman, Democrat, California, $152.62 million. Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia, the senator representing one of the poorest states in the Union, $81.5 million. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, $70.1 million. Representative Jared Polis of Colorado, $56.49 million. Senator Frank Lautenberg of New Jersey, $49.7 million. Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, liberal Democrat, $46.7 million. And we know that's a low figure, given that her husband received $7 billion in contracts, which were written up by Dianne Feinstein when she was the chairperson of the Senate Military Construction Committee. Alan Grayson, this is for the year 2010, by the way, $31.4 million. Nancy Pelosi, $21.7 million. That's the minimum amount. Minimum. That's the floor for the year 2010 during the economic recession. During the worst time of the economic recession, John Kerry, $188.37 million. If you look at this amount of wealth, this is resources being held by these people, therefore being denied to others based on the logic or lack of logic used by liberal progressives to justify taxation. Taxation confiscates from earnings, not from held wealth. So if progressives really want a policy that taxes the rich, millionaires and billionaires, while John Kerry uses the phrase millionaires and billionaires, he should only look at the mirror at himself. So why don't the Democrats craft legislation that allows the IRS to decide how much these people need to survive, and then take the rest and put it into forward-thinking programs for the poor. See, the problem with liberal progressives is, in the rank and file, the garden variety, is they don't even know how to separate this stuff, how to describe it, how to debate it. It's just, well, we've got to get the rich. Who are the rich? Well, billionaires, private jets, yachts, and oil companies. Well, John Kerry's invested in Halliburton. John Kerry has a yacht. John Kerry has 8 different homes. And John Kerry stood there and lectured Marco Rubio about the responsibility of other people. John Kerry is what you would call a bourgeois socialist. From John Kerry down to Nancy Pelosi, the poorest of this list is $21 million. And again, that's the lowest figure. So where are the good liberal Democrats? Well, first of all, before we say where are the good liberal Democrats, why do these good liberal Democrats have all this money? If in order to hold wealth, for every increment of wealth, you have to create an increment of poverty, then John Kerry is making a lot of people poor by denying them the resources they need, from each according to their abilities, to each according to their needs. The needs of the recipient outweigh the rights of the provider. If need exists, then property must be confiscated to support need. These are all tenets of the left. But yet they decide that this aristocracy, this enclave in Washington, is to be free from question. And Marco Rubio would have been rebuffed and in violation of Senate rules if he said, you, sir, John Kerry, you're worth $188 million. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Why don't you sacrifice your lifestyle? Why don't you deny yourself a yacht and put that money into a school lunch program? Why don't you do it? Because liberals are very good at putting other people's money where their mouths are. The funny thing about taxation is they want taxation to be a medium of control. It's not just about redistribution of wealth, it's also control. Because if liberals really believed that taxes would create prosperity, then why are you calling people who make $250,000 a year a millionaire? That's $750,000 less than $1 million. I know, but you guys are so much smarter than everyone else. Can't you figure that one out? And they want the highest tax rate to end there. That leaves, if John Kerry pays, which, by the way, most of this money just sitting in a bank collecting interest, but let's just say he was earning this. Let's just say he was earning $18 million a year. And this is 10 years of, or 20 years of hard-fought savings. 3% to somebody making $18 million a year doesn't affect their lifestyle. 3% to someone making $250,000 a year and living in a high-tax metropolitan area or state affects their lifestyle. So before you say that group of people, this group of people, that person over there can afford to pay more, why don't you sacrifice your lifestyle for the greater good? Why doesn't Nancy Pelosi sacrifice her lifestyle for the greater good? Why doesn't Mark Warner, who demands, I don't know if you saw this, Mark Warner is demanding that he get a seat in the Super Congress. Why? So he can decide that other people should sacrifice their lifestyles while his is left unchanged? How about, I've proposed this before. If you liberal Democrats really want a progressive tax code, stop it with the $250,000 is $1 million. Start your highest tax rate at $1 million. Then tax 1% per million compounded. That means at $1 million, you're going to pay 39.5%. We'll go back to the Clinton era tax rates. Another $1 million over that, you're going to pay 40.5%. At $3 million, you're going to pay 41.5%. And it's just going to keep going up. So by the time you get to around $50 million, you're paying approximately a 90% income. Why don't you do that? This way, when Lady Gaga earns $100 million next year, as she's on path to, the first 50 million, she'll be taxed at 90%. She can keep the other 50 million and still be disgustingly rich. The same goes for, oh boy, I was watching this video last night. Have you guys ever seen, this is the first time, I guess, anybody was allowed to photograph Will Smith's mansion. Oh boy, you should have seen this thing. He's loaded. He's loaded, this guy. You look at these Hollywood entertainers. My God, they got money coming out their rear ends. But you know, if people like you, they don't want to take your money. If they don't know you or they dislike you, then they want to take your money. 1-866-95-PATRIOT. Frank Lautenberg, $49.7 million. This guy is a nonstop lecture about wealth. Go after him. Hey, Frank, can you spare a dime? Huh? Starving over here. I'm for the people. 1-866-95-PATRIOT. We're right, they're wrong. That's the end of the story. See, hold on, before I go to the break here. This is why liberal progressives are pure, unadulterated hypocrites. And the best part is what they're lucky about is their garden variety, tax the rich, millionaires, billionaires, is that their followers fall for those talking points while being considered the smartest people in the room. Yeah, millionaires, billionaires, private jets, and oil companies. Oh my, millionaires, billionaires, private jets, yachts, oil companies. Oh my. We're right. They're wrong. That's the end of the story. The arguments on this radio program cannot be broken. WilkowMajority.com, SiriusXM Patriot.